Hey, welcome back, music lovers. This is Matt and Cheryl's Gen Excellent playlist. I'm Matt.
I'm Cheryl.
And we are back to the wonderful music year of 1979 after taking a detour in our last episode to pay our respects to one of the great studio drummers, Jim Gordon, who passed away this month. We are coming toward the end of 1979, 14 songs that we're choosing for that year. Cheryl and I each have a song we're going to add to the list today, and we're going to run down some of the great albums in 1979. And Cheryl is put me on the spot. She's making me pick my album for 1979.
Somebody's got to do it at some point.
I was pretty sure going in this would be the record, but I wanted to listen to a bunch of 79 albums before I made my final decision. But I'm pretty certain that nothing is going to kick this one off its perch. I've already referenced it a couple of times in earlier 1979 episodes, but I'm still listening to 79. In fact, I was listening to one just before I came down here. AC/DC's big commercial breakthrough album. Not their biggest commercial album, but the one that put them at a higher tier commercially, came out in 1979. That was the Highway to Hell album. The significance of that album is them bringing in Mutt Lange to produce, so kind of smooth them out a little bit, add some production. You can actually hear some overdubs on there, even harmonies on this record. Of course, he'd be famous for those high harmonies on the Def Leppard records that he produced, starting with Pyromania and adding that touch. But I in 1979, I would have been, 9, 10 years old. I didn't know anything about AC/DC when this album came out. I don't think I became aware of AC/DC until 6th grade, which would have been right before Back in Black dropped. That's when I noticed, kids my age were starting to listen to AC/DC. And you started to have some of these kids getting into the harder rock stuff. Probably influenced by older siblings. And it took me years to really appreciate this band. I didn't like them at the time. I couldn't stand Brian Johnson singing. The one song that I thought was tolerable was You Shook Me All Night Long. And that was actually my high school class's theme song, graduating class, 87. But it took years to really kind of get it, and appreciate AC/DC and what makes them great. And they are great. They are fantastic. I mean, it's just rock and roll. It's distilled. It's high proof, distilled, no frills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's funny you say You Shook Me All Night Long was your class song. It's like we used to sing that song on the softball team bus, and we'd crank it loud and we'd be singing. And I think back, it's like the lyrics to that song.
Oh, yeah.
It cracks me up to think about singing that with our coaches and, with... or the adults that were there.
Isn't it funny to think now? I mean, so, we're about the same age, mid, late 80s, high school graduation. And isn't it funny to think about the music that's played at like kids' sporting events now, at high school sporting events? Could you imagine Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne and AC/DC being played over the PA at high school events back then?
No.
Or the school band playing Metallica.
Crazy Train or
yeah. But you're right about the lyrics. People kind of squirm about, because let's be honest, most kids don't listen to rock now. They listen to hip hop or country. And country music is even sounding like hip hop now. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's all kind of meshing together and so much, even just like pop music has hip hop, interspersed in.
I guess I'm having trouble coming to grips with a lot of kids now, athletes, they get asked, what's your favorite kind of music? And it's country and hip hop. Very commonly, those two. And now you're starting to see that the hit country music stations, when you tune them in, a lot of these songs have a hip hop influence to them. It's weird.
Yeah, it feels like this has kind of permeated all of popular music in some way or some form. Rock music is definitely not. I mean, it's like, I think we talked about this before when we were talking about what rock drummer could even take over, like Led Zeppelin, let's say. Right. It's like Dave Grohl is the only guy that comes to mind in so many, and the Foo Fighters, when you think about like a rock band.
Right.
There was when
maybe a Matt Cameron or somebody like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like when you had like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and those bands coming through in the grunge era, but then it doesn't seem like it's really come back around to that. And it's just not, there's not that many bands doing that kind of music. And I mean, like AC/DC.
Greta Van Fleet carrying the torch for...
And who does Greta Van Fleet sound exactly like?
Exactly like Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin.
Right? Yes.
So, you're still going.
They got
back
a new album drop. Don't they have a new album dropping here in the next couple of weeks? Or
I'm not sure actually. Yeah. They might. But yeah, I mean, they were big, and they were this big deal too, probably because they were doing a form of music that wasn't happening as much, wasn't really popular. But it's a throwback. It's still a throwback. But anyway, the whole AC/DC thing, I only know really Back in Black because it was just so popular as a all over the place sing along, like You Shook Me All Night Long and even Back in Black and just that whole album. But it took me to go back and listen to the Bon Scott years much later, to appreciate any of that. And
yeah, I liked the Bon Scott stuff before I liked the Brian Johnson era. And when I said Brian, the Back in Black album is just this sonic powerhouse. It sounds so amazing. But yeah, Mutt Lange brought that sonic power to an already powerful rock and roll band and just made them sound so much bigger and better on that Highway to Hell album. And it's just one classic after another. Barely a pause in between tracks, starting with the title track. And that's but I dig the Bon Scott. I think my favorite AC/DC song is Long Way to the Top. If you want to rock and roll, I mean, how great is that? Bringing bagpipes into that mix. Pretty cheeky. These guys
rock song. I mean,
right.
Mole of Kintyre, Paul McCartney did it, but it's not quite in the same vein. It doesn't have that contrast with like the heavy rock song with the bagpipes. Yeah.
So that was a big album in 1979, but we're going to start with one of my songs here, and transatlantic smash album in 1979 for this band. It's Supertramp, and they had four great singles off this record. Two of them in particular got a lot of airplay in the United States. The Logical Song was the first single off the Breakfast in America album, came out in early 1979. And then you had Take the Long Way Home, which was also a big top 10 hit in the US. And these are transatlantic hits. Supertramp, top 10, USA, Canada, England, many European countries. We've already talked about Supertramp a bit. That was your album pick for 74.
74,
right?
Yeah.
Prime of the Century.
Prime of the Century. Mm-hmm.
Now, you go back before that album came, that was their third record. They'd released two albums in 70 and 71, self-titled and indelibly stamped. Both of them tanked. I don't think either of us has ever listened to either of those records. Have you?
No, I haven't. So and I know that, Rick Davies and Roger Hodgson are in the band, but I think they had a lot of different kind of rotating members at that time. They really hadn't solidified a solid band at that point.
So Rick Davies had been in a band in the late 60s called The Joint. Roger Hodgson in a couple other bands. There's a few things that make Supertramp really unique, and it's a very unique band, their sound.
Yeah.
You've got two very distinctive lead vocalists and songwriters. With Davies, keyboard player, and the low voice, gruff, kind of raspy, low voice, bluesy sound. And then you got Roger Hodgson with that super high register, kind of airy-fairy personality, hippie mystic type, but very, very astute with his pop sense. Incredible melodic songs that he came up with. And he had the majority of their radio hits.
And a great guitarist, too.
Yes, an understated guitarist.
Understated, yeah.
But we'll definitely talk about his guitar on this song, a classic solo that plays this song out. And it's a very minimal solo. So Rick Davies had struck up a relationship with this Dutch millionaire. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. His first name's Stanley. We'll just call him Michigas. It looks like something like that. And he was kind of financing the band. He didn't like the band, but he liked Rick. And he said, I'll keep supporting you if you find a new group because I think you've got some talent. And he put an ad in Melody Maker, one of the big weekly music papers in England, New Music Express being the other. And a lot of the great bands formed from these ads in the music trades. So that's how he linked up with Hodgson. They come from very different backgrounds. Davies from Swindon, which is in southwest England, working class guy. And actually, he had been in Switzerland, gigging in Europe primarily with his previous group. Roger Hodgson, different background, more posh, went to boarding schools. So you got Davis with kind of the bluesy, gritty background, and Hodgson more melodic, hippie kind of sensibility. And they combined forces, and they released those first two. They were signed to A&M Records in England, which I guess they're one of the first bands to sign to English A&M. And they're still getting support from this Dutch guy, Michigas, but they're going nowhere. These two albums don't make any kind of an impact. They're not particularly memorable by all accounts. And then they just do a reset. Rick and Roger kick everybody else out of the band. They bring in these new recruits. And this is where the great Supertramp group coalesces, where you've got Davies on the keyboards and more specifically a prominent Wurlitzer electric piano, which is really the hallmark of their sound. I've heard it referenced as a Wurlitzer or a Fender Rhodes. I'm pretty sure it's Wurlitzer.
I've read Wurlitzer, but it does look like a Fender Rhodes and sound like one too. Yeah.
At this point in time, you're getting in the mid-late 70s, most of the keyboard sounds you're getting are more like Moog synthesizers or Oberheim synth, different polyphonic synths start to come in at the end of the decade. So the electric piano sound, a bit of a throwback when we get to 79 with Breakfast in America, but that's really the foundation of their signature sound. And it's not just Davies that play. I mean, you hear layers of keyboards on a lot of these records, and sometimes at concert, you've got three guys playing keys, Davies, Hodgson, and the horn player, Helliwell, who is another reason why they have a unique sound. He plays the saxophone, which obviously is showing up on a lot of 70s records, but woodwinds too, clarinet. The title track of Breakfast in America prominently features the tuba on the bass part.
Oh, yeah.
So you got a little interesting horns in their sound. The bass player is Doogie Thompson. Looks like Dougie, but he pronounced it Doogie. He comes from Scotland. And then I didn't know this till researching, but the drummer is an American. Bob Siebenberg is his name. And on a couple of the albums, you'll see him credited as Bob C. Benberg, but it's actually Siebenberg, Siebenberg. Really good drummer. So this is the classic band that coalesces around the Crime of the Century album, and that's their breakthrough to commercial success, and they start getting FM radio play in the United States with songs like School, and we've already talked a lot about that record. Dreamer, which is the Hodgson song, is a hit record in England. It would be re-released later on in the 70s as Supertramp's fame grew in America, and it would hit the top 40 in a different, I believe it's a different version, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's maybe a live version that actually hit the America charts later on. But again, prominently featuring that that electric piano part.
Yeah.
That's where it really established that as their sound. They had to quickly follow up that record with Crisis What Crisis, which wasn't as successful critically or commercially. And their next one in 77 is Even in the Quietest Moments. And that had the hit single Give a Little Bit. Not a huge hit, but top 20 in the United States.
And the title track got radio play too.
Give a Little Bit has endured. I know that was used in a commercial recently, so that got a lot of airplay that way. And then Breakfast in America in 1979, recorded in 78. This puts him in the big leagues. Huge hit record. And, we've talked a lot about radio formatting in the 1970s. And the reason this record was as big as it was, certainly in the United States, is it crossed over to multiple formats. Because they'd already established a foothold on AOR, album-oriented rock radio, with the Crime of the Century album. They'd had pop hits, a top 20 with Give a Little Bit, so they'd broken through on AM pop radio. And then their sound, they're tagged as a prog rock band, but it's not really to the extent where the average listener it's going over their heads. They're melodic, their songs are catchy, they're hooky, and they're not a heavy sounding act. So they're getting play on soft rock radio as well with these singles.
And they might have been tagged as prog rock too, because a lot of their songs are kind of epic. They're long and they have different parts to them. So, I mean, that's about the most prog thing about them, really, I think.
And the Crime of the Century album is compared a lot of times to Dark Side of the Moon with similar lyrical themes. So that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
And there was a belief that there was a concept involved there. They claim no. I know the song School feeds into Bloody Well Right, which was a bigger hit in England than over in North America, just because that's a very English phrase. Bloody Well Right is one of their harder rocking songs, too.
Yeah.
It's a pretty straight rocker. Go onto YouTube. There's a lot of live stuff for Supertramp. Not a great dynamic live band. Unfortunately, the live album they put out after Breakfast in America got huge, the Paris live album, was recorded toward the end of a long world tour, and they sound a little gassed, not particularly energetic. And it was a live DVD release, too. It's all that's available on YouTube. Doesn't really show them at their best.
Vocally, especially, the vocals tend to be really flat at times and just not kind of lifeless.
And it's a tough vocal mix where you have very different sounding vocalists, Davies and Hodgson, but both of them can be a little pitchy on that show, I think. There's a later live show. There's a little documentary I watched on YouTube, and it includes a lot of live clips from their famous Last Words tour, which was the last go-round for Roger Hodgson. They sound a lot better on those live clips. By Breakfast in America, Davies and Hodgson are, again, they're very different backgrounds, very different personalities. They'd initially started collaborating on a lot of these songs. And if you look at the records, the credits say Hodgson and Davies, but they're clearly writing their own tunes. And the ones they sing are the ones they write.
Yeah.
But, it's a pretty good idea for bands' health and life if you share the songwriting credits like that, because that's really where the money is.
Yeah.
But you could see,
and they do collaborate, they do add things to each other's songs. And it probably is happening equally enough that they figure there's always going to be some kind of collaboration there.
And you can imagine with Hodgson getting the majority of the singles, when bands that are structured this way with multiple songwriters and lead vocalists, inevitably, if you're successful, it can inevitably lead to tension. If one guy's getting more songs released as singles than the other.
Yeah.
And Hodgson clearly was the more melodic songwriter, and his writing was really more in tune to what American radio wanted to hear, I think, at that point in time. But the song I'm choosing is a Davies song. It's Goodbye Stranger. This was not as big a hit. In America, they released 3 singles. Breakfast in America was only a single in England, but it did get a lot of FM radio play here. So the 3 singles, the first one, the logical song, Goodbye Stranger, and then Take the Long Way Home. The 2 Hodgson songs bookending the Davies song. The Hodgson songs were bigger hits. They were both top 10 singles in the United States. In fact, Logical Song was a number 1. They had 2 number 1 hits in Canada. As big as they were in the U.S., they were massive in Canada. And apparently they're huge in France, too, I guess, which is why the live album was recorded there at the Paris Pavilion. But Logical Song, first single. I loved this when I was a kid.
Oh, me too.
It's a clever lyric. It's a catchy pop song. It's about really about nonconformism. And the album is called Breakfast in America. And by now they've lived here for a couple of years. So I think that the lyrics are really more from an American perspective, or maybe an English observer living in America. But one of the things that took it over the top for me as a kid at that time, they get that great groove at the end of the song. There's a sound effect that comes in where they say, digital. It's that Mattel football game that was so popular.
Yes.
And I was the perfect age. I mean, me and my friends all had that thing.
And
would play that for hours.
Oh, totally. Yes.
And that sound effect is so that was like bing, 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 bing. It's speaking
like
to me.
They're speaking my language here.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I've never made that connection.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of funny. My favorite song of theirs is Goodbye Stranger, which was the next single release. I guess I don't really recall hearing that on the radio as a contemporary single. I remember Logical Song being played. I remember Take the Long Way Home, hearing that played on the radio a lot. But it's almost like it was a little more of a retrospective discovery for me. Not long past the release of the album, which was early 79. But I kind of appreciate that song later. I didn't buy it right away as a single. So at 79, end of 79 is when I first started buying 45 records. And we talked about Gary Newman Cars. That was the first. But Goodbye Stranger. So it's got that great bluesy Rick Davies vocal. It's about, it's about an independent guy, doesn't want to get tied down, moving from place to place, woman to woman.
He's very promiscuous, actually.
Is he?
Well, I mean, don't you think so?
You may know more than I do in that regard,
just
Cheryl.
Based
I don't know.
on what he's telling us that he's doing, yes.
I'm an early morning lover,
and I must be moving on.
Does that mean he was up before the break of dawn, getting it on, then getting out? Is that what he's saying there?
Yes, yes.
It's got that great Wurlitzer piano on it. So they start to bring in more elements as the song grows. And then the chorus. So this was enlightening for me, finding the live clips. So again, Davies has that low, that great raspy, bluesy voice. Hodgson, the high voice. When you get to the chorus of Goodbye Stranger, it's falsetto. Goodbye, stranger. It's been nice. So I always assumed that was Roger Hodgson on the chorus.
Me too, yeah.
But apparently no. Rick Davies got some range in that voice. Now, on the live clips, so if you know the song real well, you know, it starts with that falsetto, and then Davies comes back in his regular voice while the falsetto part continues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's layered over the top of it. So live, it's Davies singing it first in that falsetto chorus, and then he has to go back to his regular voice. So the continuation of the chorus, you got Roger Hodgson and John Helliwell, the horn player. They do the falsetto harmony part,
mm-hmm.
while Davies is singing the regular part, which I think is interesting.
That's one of the coolest things about this song, actually, is how they do that kind of call and response, or they're singing together. I guess it's not really call and response, and you've got the high falsetto with the lower kind of raspy and that back and forth. I think that's one of the things that really makes this song stand out.
Now, the coup de grace in this song is the guitar solo at the end. So years ago, I tried to make a list of the great one-note guitar solos, and this might be the greatest of them all. Now, it's not just one note, but you get my point. It's minimal.
It
starts hammering
very
one note.
Notes.
Hammering one note is how this guitar solo starts. So the three that first come to mind for me when you talk about great minimal one-note guitar solos, Cinnamon Girl, Neil Young.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Sinister Purpose off the Green River album. That's a great one-note. And then this one.
You want to know what my favorite is?
Yes.
I Can See for Miles.
I never really thought of that.
That's a full-on one-note solo.
Yeah. That is one of my favorite Who songs, and I never really thought of that as a one-note guitar solo. Now you're going to make me go back and listen to that again.
Yep.
But it just starts hammering that one note, and then he's just kind of sliding up and down the guitar neck. So it's not a really complex solo, but you get some great effects in that guitar solo, and he's kind of building to this climax. It's getting down to that neck, and the song just kicks into overdrive in that coda. It is so great. And it's a great song even leading up to that, but that just puts it
that's just like an added bonus at the end,
just puts it over the top. Beautiful use of wah-wah and echo.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're an underrated instrumental band. That's a really good rhythm section.
And, for some reason, I wasn't even really thinking of Roger Hodgson as being the lead guitarist on that song until I was watching the live video, and I was like, oh yeah, that's him playing that solo. And, this album was almost going to be my album of the year. Then when you said you were going to choose Goodbye Stranger, I thought, well, okay, I'll go a different direction. But one of the things I love so much about this album, all the songs, the popular songs, are great. Love them all. But
yeah,
I love the album tracks almost as much as I love the popular songs.
I didn't get into the album as much as I thought I would. I've had it for a long time. I like it more now going back and listening. Songs like Oh Darling, that's a really good song. It starts with Gone Hollywood, the Davies song.
Mm-hmm.
That's a keeper. For me, it kind of peters out at the end, the last couple of songs.
Just Another Nervous Wreck and Child Division are like my two favorite songs on this album.
Okay, there we go. The show would be a lot less interesting if we agreed all the time.
Right. Child Division is epic. And it has that same Wurlitzer piano. It starts the song, and I love those two songs. That's why I find this album to be so great, because it's just the depth is beyond just the popular songs, which are also great songs. There are a couple songs that are sort of little duds, like Casual Conversations is a little bit just like a throwaway.
I do like Lord Is in Mine quite a bit. It's a beautiful, beautiful Hodgson ballad.
So
just beautiful
pretty.
High singing and harmony.
Yep.
Yeah. Aren't you surprised they didn't release Breakfast in America as a single? Because it's catchy. It's still good. I mean, I say still. It's been a long time since I listened to FM rock radio.
Right.
I presume they still played on classic rock radio quite a bit.
It was played on classic rock radio a lot. Yeah. It's
heard it
actually
all the
one
time.
of my least favorite songs of theirs. I'm not a fan of that song, really. But yeah, it is kind of funny they didn't release it.
Take a look at My Girlfriend,
America.
Never Seemed to Get a Lot. You don't like that song?
Even despite the lyrics, I still don't really like the song that much, but yeah.
Oh, you must love Could We Have Kippers for Breakfast, Mummy Dear, Mummy Dear. You didn't know that lyric?
Yeah, I know that lyric. That doesn't even bother me. I just don't really like the song. Like, it's just kind of clunky. It's kind of clunky and just sort of like trods along in a weird kind of way.
I love that they use the tuba for bass.
Yeah, there's something quirky about it, I guess, but it's never been one of my favorite songs of theirs by any means.
You read the accounts of the recording of this album, and there's differing accounts as to the relationship between Rick Davies and Hodgson. Hodgson says, no, we got along fine. I just wanted to do my own thing. And again, very different personalities, but by all accounts, the recording of this album went pretty well. They took a long time mixing it because I think they knew that they were on the verge of a big breakthrough and they wanted to get it right. And they took forever to get the mix. Sound-wise, it's been criticized, very, very trebly, not a real warm sound, not an audiophile delight, certainly. But the thing they did say is they were happy songs. They were optimistic, happy. They were really embracing AOR radio and their pop sensibilities here. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. When you look at the lyrics of the Logical Song, it's about the world trying to get you to conform. Take the Long Way Home. It's about a guy who's feeling ignored and forgotten about at home.
It's not a happy song.
No. So I don't really see that.
No.
I mean, the melodies are great.
Yeah.
But lyrically, I don't hear a particularly happy album here.
No, I don't agree with that either. That's definitely not what I get from this album. Now, I will say a lot of Roger Hodgson's writing, especially like Crime of the Century, comes from his boarding school background and just sort of pushed down by the man. And that comes through in like the Logical Song. So it may just be that it does feel lighter, and it's mostly because of the music than a lot of their other albums, especially Crime of the Century, but even in the quietest moments. So I can kind of see where that comes from. And also too, that Wurlitzer piano, just the sound of it makes a song sound happy, it adds that sense of, the lyrics are pretty, maybe not Goodbye Stranger, I wouldn't say deep, but definitely Roger Hodgson's lyrics, they're pretty deep.
Yeah, Goodbye Stranger isn't epic poetry. It's pretty basic lyrical theme. It's just a really, really well constructed record that just sounds amazing.
Yeah,
musically and vocally. So this was a massive hit for them. They had a huge world tour. They're a stadium band now in a lot of the world. They released a live album in Paris before their next record came out in 1982. And Famous Last Words, famous cover with the guy on the tightrope with the scissors about to cut the rope, indicating that the Hodgson's about to cut ties.
The end is near.
The band. The end is near. Album was perceived as a big letdown. I've got it. I've never listened to it. The single "It's Raining Again" was a pretty good hit in America. Just
almost like a 50s throwback. It's like a Neil Sedaka song,
Yeah, it sounds a bit I mean, it's catchy, it's well sung, but it does sound a bit throwaway. The second single, I don't even remember hearing it, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you what it is right now. It's My Kind of Lady, I think.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that either. And then Hodgson goes solo, and he actually had some interesting.
Had a Dream was a song that they played on MTV.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
That was a good song, yeah. That's actually a pretty cool album. I've listened to that album. And Supertramp continued on without Roger Hodgson for one more album called Brother, Where You Bound, which is actually pretty cool.
Okay.
It's got some good stuff on it. Cannonball is a song that's on their collections.
I remember that single. It was definitely a departure.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember seeing the cassette tape of Brother, Where You Bound when that came out and thinking about picking it up, but never did.
It was probably in all the cutout bins too, because it never really did anything. And it's one of those albums that you can go back and listen to it now and be like, okay, actually, this has some quality stuff on it. It's a departure. I can see why it wasn't popular at the time, but it's worth revisiting.
And then Free as a Bird is the album that came out after that in 1987, I believe. And again, they're moving toward a more 80s keyboard, digital kind of sound.
I don't remember anything from that.
No, me neither. I've got it. I haven't listened to it. And then they kind of petered out with a live album, Live 88. Hodgson, pretty successful first solo album. Second one, High High. listen to that a while. It's just kind of boring. Nothing really stands out for me. I don't know if you've listened to that one.
I don't think I have, actually. No. Yeah.
I think they reformed briefly. It's kind of a one-off in the 90s to play a gig, but Hodgson and Davies have never brought the core. I mean, Davies has continued to do stuff under the brand Supertramp. He's battled some health issues in recent years. I think he's gotten past it. Still holding out hope that they could reform. Hopefully they're both well enough and in good enough voice. I mean, it's always tough with those high singers
to
preserve that register in advanced age. But
Roger Hodgson has toured in the last like 10 years as a solo act, and he does a lot of the Supertramp songs. So I feel like he's kind of got his own thing going, because so many of his songs were the hits. Yeah. And his vocal is what you recognize. So I think that he probably could just continue doing that and, not even have to bring Rick Davies back in or be part of the Supertramp name, because he's still singing the Supertramp songs.
I think most young people, the one song they might recognize would probably be Give a Little Bit, because of that commercial ad campaign that was used. It's just such a very melodic, catchy, uplifting, positive message.
Yeah, no, I can see that song enduring. And I think that...
Now, that's a happy song. That's definitely a happy song.
Yeah. That album, though, doesn't... that's one song from an album that isn't really... I wouldn't call that album happy.
No, it's
but
just...
that song is, yeah.
I thought that album was boring. I had it a long time. I need to revisit. I've picked it up again. A lot of that album is very quiet.
It's quiet, even in the quietest moments. Yeah. Now, I do understand. I do think that Breakfast in America as an album is one of the best albums of the 70s. Definitely of 1979. Like I said, it probably would have been number 2 for me. Well, it would have been number 3 if you didn't pick the album you're picking.
Well, I'm going to say right now that after listening to this album last night, it has risen in my estimation. That is the Police's second album, Regatta de Blanc, and Cheryl's song choice is the best known song from that record, Message in a Bottle.
This Regatta de Blanc was the first album I really got into. I kind of bought all the albums sort of at the same time, but I just really liked Regatta de Blanc. Although it really was one that they kind of brought some old songs, even old songs from old bands like that Sting was into that album. They have like some instrumentals, the song Regatta de Blanc is an instrumental. It's sort of like thrown together. They recorded it in 4 weeks, although it was over a several month period. It's not really as polished, together as an album, but the song Message in a Bottle, which it's hard to say because the Police do have a lot of great songs, but it's probably my favorite Police song. Definitely one of their most popular and most played. We've talked a little bit about the Police and their background. The 3 of them all have jazz backgrounds. They were all older. They'd all already played in bands and kind of had been established musicians for a while before punk hit. And then they kind of got swept up in the whole punk movement. One of the things I didn't know, I guess Sting was in a Wrigley's gum commercial, was cast in a Wrigley's gum commercial before their first album came out. And he brought Stuart and Andy along, and they were all in the commercial. And the people making the commercial were the ones that actually suggested they bleach their hair. So they all bleached their hair for that. And then that was their look. But the commercial never aired for some reason. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny, and I tried to find it, but I could not find it anywhere. And there's an interview with Andy Summers who's like, whatever happened to that Wrigley's gum commercial? Come on, we need to unearth it because it was never used. So yeah, they were just kind of got swept up into the punk scene, but they were all very accomplished musicians. And this song, one of the coolest guitar riffs ever. Sting wrote the guitar riff for a different song, and then it just kind of morphed into what became Message in a Bottle. And that's what really makes this song is that Andy Summers added that arpeggio to the riff.
He's such a unique player.
Yes.
Nobody sounded like the Police. They sounded so unique.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what made them special. Those guys are all hot players. But you're right about Sting. I mean, he's an accomplished. I mean, he came out of a jazz fusion group, so he can play.
Yeah.
But the standout players or the showcase players are really Andy and Stuart. But Andy's not playing a typical Guitar Hero role. And he's got chops out the wazoo, but it's coloration, it's harmonics. And Copeland, of course, is one of the greatest rock drummers ever. No question.
Yeah. One of my favorite drummers. And this is a perfect example of why I love him so much too in this song. He uses the hi-hats in a way that very few drummers do.
Maybe the greatest cymbal player in rock history.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he can be like a super flashy drummer, but a lot of his drumming is really minimalistic. And this is kind of one of those songs too, where you've got the tom hits here and there, but a lot of it is the cymbal playing and the hi-hats. And I didn't realize, though, that drum part is actually overdubs. There's like 6 drum parts that are overdubbed on this song.
You kind of wonder how one guy could be doing all that.
I know. You do sort of wonder when you hear it, but then you watch them play live and he can still pull it off live.
Yes, there's a reason he dressed as he did on their live shows. I mean,
wearing no shirt and tiny little shorts.
He looks like he's going to the club to play squash.
Yes, basically. He does.
He's got the athletic shoes, tube socks, shorts,
usually sweatbands.
Sweatbands, yes, the sweatbands on the wrists. That's like that is so of that era of somebody playing squash at the club.
It is exactly, but it was a full workout.
He's a big athletic guy. He's a powerhouse drummer. He's got a lot of power, but very athletic guy.
Yeah, but in this song, it's like every note or every hit is calculated. It has that feel to it where he has composed the drum part to this song. And I mean, one of the things I think that shows how great of a drummer is that he can play this song live and still have it sound like it does on the album close enough. The guitar part has a lot of overdubs too. They used a lot of different technology in their playing.
Nigel Gray is the producer pretty much throughout the Police's tenure. That's a name you never hear. I mean, I don't even know what else he produced. What else has he worked on?
I don't know. You're much better at knowing producers' names than I am.
I know. So. And several things occurred to me as I was listening to that on the headphones last night in bed. And that's one is it's a really and all their stuff is very well produced, but you just never hear that guy's name. You mentioned the guitar overdubs. This is another thing that stood out to me. On the chorus, you've got a rhythm and a lead part, but the lead part is buried in the mix. It's the rhythm part that's actually forward in the mix. And that really tells you all you need to know about the Police is the rhythm is king.
Yes.
These guys were a rhythm machine.
Yeah. I mean, Stuart Copeland, he grew up in Cairo, Beirut, then moved to England. He took a lot of his ideas from world music and reggae. He took a lot of ideas from reggae drummers.
Father was like a diplomat or a spy or worked for the CIA.
His father was in the CIA.
Yeah.
And his father was also a jazz musician. And so he really was trying to push him into becoming a jazz drummer. But he gravitated to Jimi Hendrix, was a big fan of Mitch Mitchell's, Ginger Baker, both also drum in trios. So he really did take a lot of, I think, like Regatta de Blanc, white reggae, they're taking a lot of the rhythms of reggae, and that's coming from Stuart Copeland.
Yeah. And that would be part of their unique sound is the way they interpreted reggae. And I think it's most prominent on this record, which is why the clever title.
Yeah.
But they would continue to have that reggae influence in all their music going on. Maybe less so on Synchronicity.
Definitely on Zenyatta Mondatta, too.
Yes, definitely there in abundance on Zenyatta Mondatta and still there on Ghost of the Machine. But they're bringing in all these kind of exotic sounds. Plus, they toured these places, which nobody else had done before.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think the things that make Stuart Copeland unique are bringing in the reggae ideas. And it's not full on reggae. It's just using a lot of the similar ideas, like where the
dub.
snare
not just
hits
reggae,
are.
But dub is a huge factor on this record.
Then using delay and echo effects that come from dub. That was a big influence. He also tuned his snare and all of his toms really high, which is unusual at the time. So you get that real hard snap on the snare, but everything is just tuned higher than where, think of like Bonham, where it's all like heavy, deep, low. Well, Stuart is not only having all the drums tuned high, but then you have a lot of the cymbal and so much of the hi-hats, which brings in that high-end sound too.
And it sounds so great on the records. His drum sound is just immaculate. And again, you got to credit Nigel Gray and the engineers on these records, but Stuart was very heavily involved in getting that drum sound right. He was very particular.
Yes. And he went on to compose a lot of music for films. He's very talented as a composer too. He had an album out called The Rhythmatist that came out in the mid 80s where he goes to Africa and records in Africa, also records like out in the field. And it's really cool. If you haven't listened to that album, go check it out. He was also in a band called Animal Logic with Stanley Clarke, jazz bass player and a female lead singer. Anyways, I mean, Stuart Copeland is such a huge reason why I love the Police. But this song in particular, and like I was saying with the album, they came into the studio, recorded it quick and small budget too, busted out the songs and were out. And they did have to dig up kind of old songs, and they didn't have a lot of songs ready for this album. But this was their first hit, and also Walking on the Moon was a number one. They were both number one hits in England.
Neither cracked the top 40 in America.
Nope. But I think this song is kind of a perfect example of what makes the Police great, because it has that haunting, pretty guitar, but also super cool, catchy riff. The whole song is really hooky. Good lyrics that tell a story. Sting's vocals, always great. The propulsive drumming, the use of the overdubs. It's not a straightforward pop song, but it's still a catchy song. And it's still a song that you can sing along to. And then it has that sending out an SOS, which I think he says SOS 31 times in the song.
more than ABBA does in the song of the same title.
Yes, right? Yes. So it has that sing along at the end. But overall, I mean, like I said, probably my favorite Police song from a band that has so many great songs.
The dub influence really caught me listening to the album. And there are a couple of moments, I can't remember which tracks in particular, where there's definite dub effects where you hear like the
Regatta de Blanc has that
where he's hitting the rim of the drums with the echo. It's a real dub hallmark. But I swear to God, there's a couple of moments where he's playing like dub sounds, but it's not using delay or echo. He's just playing it that way. I could swear it.
Well, Walking on the Moon. Walking on the Moon is full of that, has the full of the rim shots. And then that song, he's doing a lot, just actually hitting the rim. Yeah.
Super, super talented player. He's so good.
He's one of those drummers that makes everything look easy. It's not easy. You can hear that it isn't. But when you watch him playing, it just flows out of him in a way that just feels so effortless.
I talked about growing in your appreciation for music, or learning to appreciate what makes music work or what makes it good. And one of the earliest examples for me, we go way back to 74 or 75 with my song That's the Way by Casey and the Sunshine Band. The horns on that. So as a young music fan, that's really the first time I can remember just noticing a part on a record instead of the record as a whole. Just hearing those horns,
and like an isolated part.
Yeah. And then I think, again, for me, reaching another level of music appreciation was listening to the drums on the Police and realizing how good Stuart Copeland, because when the Police were having hits, I loved the band. For me, the top two bands out of the new wave era, and really this would be the same for most Americans. These were the two most successful bands, would be the Police and U2.
Yeah.
And I loved them both. But I never really thought, oh, God, Stuart Copeland, what a drummer. Until later on, when I'm getting the CDs and I'm in college, then I remember a friend of mine, fellow music lover, mentioning how much he loves Stuart Copeland. I'm like, oh, really? And I was like, oh, my God, yeah, listen to what he's doing. That's cool.
And I think that's one of the things that makes him so great, too, is there are a lot of it is subtle. Like, he's not a super flashy player. He can be, but it's the way that it all fits together. He pieces it all together, and he composes.
Yes. It
a
has
drum
to serve,
track.
Yeah. Has to serve the song. And then, we just got through memorializing Jim Gordon. He's doing all kinds of cool stuff on these songs, but never gets in the way of the song.
Well, first of all, any band that puts out great music that's a trio, they have to all be great musicians. And the Police are one of those bands.
Like the Jonas Brothers.
I said that puts out great music. All three of them are the best of the best at what they do. And that they actually were popular too, because Message in the Bottle was the first of their 5 number one singles in the UK. They had 5 number one singles. Walking on the Moon. I'm surprised Walking on the Moon was a number one single, actually.
Was it even released as a single in America? It didn't make the top
I don't
100.
think so, yeah.
Message in a Bottle was only 74.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Message in a Bottle, Walking on the Moon, Don't Stand So Close to Me, which is also huge in America.
Top 10 in America.
Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, and Every Breath You Take, which was massive.
Every Little Thing She Does will probably pop up on my 1981
Yeah, I love
list.
that song. Yeah. And rightfully so that they should have had 5 number one hits.
They didn't hit number one in America till the final album, Synchronicity.
Yeah, which was massive.
Right. Yeah.
And they were the biggest band in the world at that time. One of the biggest bands in the world.
Literally the world, because they toured all corners. And you got to respect the Police. Their relationship with rock critics is so funny. And again, I love this developing theme on our playlist where we're just salvaging all this great music that was not critically appreciated at the time.
Yeah.
The Police had their share of detractors, and a lot of that was like Sting's pretentious lyrics, his literary back. He was a teacher.
Yeah.
Literary references in his lyrics and all that. But another aspect, I think all their albums, maybe not Ghost in the Machine, I can't remember offhand, but I think all their albums have a novelty track, at least one.
Well, in any track that Andy Summers is singing is going to be a novelty track,
yes.
Like Mother from Synchronicity.
And I think
Stuart Copeland, he had a band at the same time as the Police called Clark Kent that was basically pretty much a novelty pop punk band. Yeah.
And his lyrics are silly too. I mean, he's
goofy.
Yeah. So, and honestly, I like the song On Any Other Day, but I think I'd like it on the previous album, not on this album, because it breaks the flow. This album is a 5-star record until that song comes on.
They all break the flow. Look at Synchronicity and Mother. Like every song that's an novelty song just breaks and it's almost like they're doing it just like we don't care or whatever. Just
I will say, it is so stupid, but I get a kick out of Be My Girl Sally on the first record.
On the first album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mother is one that almost nobody digs.
No.
On Synchronicity. Yeah.
No, but Andy Summers came from more of it. If anybody was more prog, it'd be him, because he worked with Robert Fripp. I mean, he was definitely on the fringe. And it's kind of funny even that he was in such a popular pop rock band.
Who would you even compare his guitar style to on these records? Just such a unique sound that he brought. No guitar cliches whatsoever. I mean, it's all atmospheric and coloration, very little like distortion or overload. He's using a lot of chime. It's a chiming guitar sound on a lot of these songs.
Which actually fits really well with Stuart Copeland's drumming too.
Yes.
And all of them individually are so unique as players, and even Sting's vocals, but put together, it all works so well together.
Also, you got 3 alpha personalities and 3 egos, and it's incredible that they lasted.
Oh, well, they're notorious for just being at each other's throats, especially Sting and Stuart Copeland. Yeah, two very big personalities that just never really meshed. They were like brothers, really. They were like sibling rivalry brothers,
Yeah, they're constantly getting at one another and getting under one another's skin. They know the right buttons to push, and they're constantly doing it. Both just kind of antagonistic characters.
And that's why they ended when they did. They ended on top. They were the biggest band in the world when they called it quits.
Definitely bigger than U2 when they hung it up. U2 kind of took that mantle.
Yeah. And they did get back together to tour like in the 2000s, but that didn't last long either.
I regret not.
Me too. I didn't go see them either.
Yeah. They're so good live.
No one thought that they'd ever get back together again. And they're one of the few bands that has ever really quit while they were on top. Obviously, Sting went on to have a huge solo career on his own.
The Jam would probably be the other good example there, but the Jam never made it at all in the United States.
Yeah, they weren't worldwide superstars like
they were
like the Police were.
Humongous in England, but never had any impact here whatsoever.
No, I mean, the Police were worldwide huge superstars, and that was it. But it's amazing they lasted as long as they did, really, with those personalities all working together. There's actually a really cool documentary that Andy Summers basically had filmed all of their tours and just like backstage, everything they had done over the years. And they put together a documentary with all the footage, and it's a good watch.
Yep, good choice. Good choice. Message in a Bottle from 1979, the Police's second record, Regatta de Blanc. Our second Police song, Roxanne, the song choice from Alandos de More for 1978. More Police songs to come for sure in upcoming years. I don't know that we're going to pull anything from Zenyatta de Mandata. I don't know. Do you think so or not?
I love that album, but I don't know if I'm going to choose any of those as my favorite songs of the year. Maybe. It depends on how many songs we have. We have so many songs now that
we'll be at 16.
I could.
We'll be at 16 for 1980. Certainly, I think Every Little Thing She Does is going to make it for me for 1981.
Oh, yeah.
And then hard to ignore the Synchronicity album when you get to 1983 because it was so massive. Mm-hmm. But great band, The Police. Still love them to this day. And it's fun revisiting these great records. Regatta de Blanc, again, on its way in my listening experience. God, this might be their best record. And then, it's just that flow. It just goes off the Autobahn when they start to get that novelty.
You know, the thing about this album is this would be another band's best record.
Oh, sure.
But for The Police, I don't think it's their best record because all their albums are so great that it's probably my third favorite now.
It's their vibiest record. That's why I don't like
On Any Other Day.
Yes. The album just had this great vibe, this great flow, and then that comes on. It's like, oh. But still, really, really good. Really, really good album. And Goodbye Stranger from Supertramp. So we've enthused so much about these two songs that we've run out of time to talk about the album. You've got yours sorted, it sounds like. Does Mike have his?
No, he's still working on it.
Oh, okay.
I keep hearing him listening to albums from 1979, and he just hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I've listened to a bunch. There's a bunch more to get to. Again, we were very excited about getting to 1979. Now we're here, and we're loving it. More to come the next time you join us on Matt and Cheryl's Gen Excellent playlist. But until then, I'm Matt.
I'm Cheryl.
Take care, everybody.